I'd like you to write down Weldon Long. He's helped many organizations improve their sales performance. I was on a program with him and I listened, and I immediately flew home and told our staff, I says, we got to get this fella in front of our boot camp people. So would you stand for Mr. Weldon Long?
Between 87 and 2003, 15 years, 13 of those behind bars. What happened? What changed? On June 10th of 1996, the cop walked in my cell, he kicked my rack, he said, Long, you need to call home. Your father's died. And on June 10th of 1996, I learned that my father at 59 years old was dead. And I realized that my dad went to his grave knowing me as a thief and a crook and a liar. I'd never have a chance to change that. And I began to think back to the last conversation I had with my dad. 2 weeks before he died. My dad says, son, you could be dead. You still got a chance. And 2 weeks later, he was gone. And I thought back over those words, and I realized that on my father's deathbed, the nicest thing that he could say to me was, at least I was alive. I came across a couple of concepts, and one of them was a quote by a fellow named Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche says, we attract that which we fear. And then I'm reading the book called Man's Search for Meaning by a fellow named Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl said 4 words, fear may come true. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I said, well, maybe, just maybe, they're right. I started thinking about, well, what do I fear most? Well, I fear going back to the joint. I fear being an unemployed loser. I feared losing my kid. I feared all this being broken, homeless stuff. And what had I attracted into my life at 32 years old? I had attracted everything into my life that I feared. I want you to imagine right here on this stage, I had a big box, like a big cardboard box. And everything that I needed to build a beautiful motorcycle was in that box. All the frame, the engine, all the parts. Nothing else is in that box. No extra parts. It's no shortage of parts, no extra parts. Just every single part that I need to build that motorcycle is in that box. Now, assuming that I had the mechanical skills and the instructions to assemble that motorcycle, if I began to pull the parts out of that box one by one, I pull one part out and I bolt something on. I pull the next part out and I bolt right just where it needs to go, right? I don't just randomly put these things together. I put them together according to what I know a motorcycle will look like, right? I put them together according to what? My vision. I put them together to what I know a motorcycle is going to look like at the end. So I pull those parts out one by one, piece by piece. Now, if I stay focused on that process and I pull those pieces out and everything I need's in there and I assemble it the way a motorcycle should look, what are the odds at some point I'm going to get to the end of that process and look up and accidentally have baked a cake? There's no way. You can't bake a cake with motorcycle parts. That box, my friends, is a metaphor for your mind. And you got a bunch of stuff in there. You got a bunch of parts. You got a bunch of components. Everything you've accumulated since you were this big is in that box. And you go through the course of your life, and piece by piece, you pull out whatever's in that box, part by part, component by component. And little by little, you're putting it together according to the vision of what you think your life's going to look like. And one day, you look up, and your life is a perfect reflection of what was in the box. You better know what's in that box. You better program what's in that box. I'm going to tell you something. If you have an expectation in your box, I'm going to make 50 grand a year. That's what your folks made. That's what your neighbors make. Everybody around your socioeconomic group, that's what they make, because the rich folks don't live with the poor folks. So the people you come into contact with are people in your socioeconomic group, your family. And throughout the course of your life, your box gets a bunch of expectations. So you get the expectations, hey, we make 50 grand a year around here. Right? That's what my family and my people do. We make 50 grand a year. What are the odds if you got $50,000 of expectation in that box? What are the odds that 1 year you're going to accidentally reach in that box and pull out $500,000? You can't do it.
Fear, F-E-A-R. Focus. You got to know exactly what you want, exactly where you're going. You got to write your income goals down. You got to know exactly where you want to be with your income. Not somewhere near it. You got to know precisely where you want to end up. That's focus. The next step in the fear process is E, emotional commitment. You got to get powerfully emotionally committed to the thing that you're now focused on. And you do that by writing it, repeating it, and experiencing it. I call this a quiet time ritual. You take that list that you've written out and you read it over and over and over again. Read it as many times as you have to read it. And while you're reading it, I want to close your eyes and visualize it and see it. And allow yourself to get deeply emotionally committed to what you're reading. Let's say you have on your list, I earn $250,000 a year and I make 10 new calls a week. If you tell yourself that every morning, what's going to happen if you don't go out and do it? You're going to feel like a fish out of water. It's going to force you to do it. And then third, F-E-A, action. This is the key. This is what separates the big money earners from the not big money earners. It ain't what they know, it's what they do. It's not about what happens on New Year's Day. It's not about what happens on your birthday. It's about what happens Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and today. Everybody in life has money problems. Everybody has health problems. Everybody has relationship problems. Everybody has insert your problem here problems. Sometimes we operate in the misconception that successful people just don't have the same problems we have. They do. They have the exact same problems. The difference between winners and losers is not in the nature of your problems. It's in the nature of your decisions about your problems. And that's what you got to take responsibility for. What do you do when something bad happens? Your outcomes in life are a reflection of your decisions, not of the problems that face you. That's the upside of fear, my friends. Focus, emotional commitment, action, and responsibility. Let me ask you a question by a show of hands. How many folks here today have a pretty good idea of what they want out of their life and business? You have kind of a good idea of your house and the size business, your family, whatever it is. You know what you want out of your life, right? How many of you at least have a somewhat of a decent idea of what you need to do to get that size company, that size business, whatever you want? Pretty good idea? How many of you are doing that thing every single day? Only a handful. And again, therein lies the conundrum of human nature. Knowing exactly what you want to build the business that you want, knowing exactly what you need to do to get there, and then not doing it on a consistent basis. So the key to this thing is the old Pareto principle. Figure it down to 1 or 2 things that you got to do to be successful in your business. Just 1 or 2 things, not 100 different things, 1 or 2. Learn to sell better, learn to serve your customers better. Something simple like that. And then just do those. Jim Rohn used to always say, success in business is about doing the ordinary things extraordinarily well. It's about executing brilliantly on the simple things, right? Not 100 different things. We overcomplicate this as human beings. When I opened my small company, I wanted to do 2 things well. I wanted to do things for my customers nobody else would do. In other words, I wanted to serve them better, and I wanted to outsell my competition. Simple as that. I was a sales and marketing company that happened to install heating and air conditioners. It doesn't matter what your technology is. You just got to learn how to sell it better than anybody else. And then you got to learn to service it better than anybody else. So you're going to have a thought. Doesn't matter how accurate it is. You're going to drive a certain emotion. You're going to have an action and a reaction, and you're going to have a result. Simple as that. There's your neuroscience right there. Simple as that. Even if the thought is wrong. How does it affect your business? Very simple. You're probably putting the pieces together already. If your basic thought goes something like this: the economy sucks, my customers have bad credit, they don't have no money, they need a cheap price, they don't care about quality and service and any of that fancy stuff, all they want is a cheap price, and they probably won't be able to afford that because they got no credit and they got no money. If that's your basic thought, your basic expectation, what do you suppose the emotion that's going to spin off of that is? Oh, another sales lead. I hate selling. Right? Business and sales would be so great if it weren't for the customers and the employees, right?
Guess what? You can't separate those things. This is why, by the way, Einstein said you cannot change your results in life at the same level of thinking that created the results, right? Now, personally, I got 103 IQ. People say there's no way you got 103 IQ. I'm barely able to feed myself. I had help right here at lunch, right? And I remember I had the IQ test done 3 times because I went to the penitentiary 3 times. And every time you come back, they wonder, how stupid can you be? And so they give you an IQ test. And every time I scored out about 103. I grew up in South Louisiana, so, you have certain associations. I thought the first man of the moon was Louis Armstrong, right? Now, we all know, of course, Lance Armstrong was the first man to go that high. But
when I was a kid, I had a dream. My dream was to be a rock and roll drummer. I fancied myself being Alex Van Halen, right? I wanted to play drums with Eddie Van Halen playing a guitar in front of me. But my life got on a different tangent, right? My life went through 25 years of insanity. But I stayed true to that dream, and the lesson here is that you hang on to that dream, and that dream will manifest. It may look a little bit different than you expect, but that dream will manifest itself because, folks, today I play drums. I'm fixing to play drums with Van Halen over the PA in front of this amazing group of people. So my dream came true today. This is my dream, to serve others and to play the drums. And by the way, when would be a good time to start taking the action? When do you suppose would be a good time to start taking consistent action? Right now? Right now. Henry David Thoreau said, if we advance confidently in the direction of our dreams and endeavor to live the life which we have imagined, we will meet with success unexpected in common hours. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you on Monday. Thank you, everybody. Everything that you need to do to build a life of success and wealth and prosperity, it's easy. It's just a little bit easier not to.